So this is interesting. I have a call from Janet in Florida who wants to talk to us about the keto diet. Janet, what's up?
Hey, Dan. Hey, Drew.
Hey.
First of all, I want to throw out there that Drew is going to be on the Discord, the ACA Discord, doing a question and answer on October 24th at 6 Central.
Yeah, he is.
So everyone tune in for that and come ask Drew some questions. Put him on the hot seat.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that I'm done with my thing. So I thought I'd call up and ask about something that's not related to anything to do with religion. And about 5 months ago, I decided to start get the keto diet, which, if anyone listening isn't aware of, it's a high-fat, moderate protein, low-carb diet, and it's actually 20 carbs or less a day. So it's not Atkins. It's like more extreme than Atkins. And I'm pretty convinced that it works, but there's really I'm going to say there's no concrete science behind my opinion. Like there's varying, you can look up the research and some say, yes, it does work. Others say, no, it doesn't work. So I would say it kind of like evens itself out to being a big fat nothing. But I'm pretty convinced it works. So I wanted to see, since there's no science behind it, it's basically a belief with no basis.
Ooh, okay. Well, I would, that's an interesting way that you put that it's a belief with no basis, but you do believe that it works. Mm-hmm. Because I don't think that beliefs always happen in a vacuum like that. I think there is some reason that you do attribute it to it working, but maybe you don't consider it a scientific reason. So
I don't. Yes, no basis in science.
Okay,
is yes, that's correct.
So let me ask you, Janet, what is the reason then that causes you to think that the keto diet does work?
Okay, so the first thing was I had my daughter almost 21 years ago, and after I had her, I had to have my gallbladder removed. Thank you, Tori, because she had her foot stuck in it for the last 3 months of my pregnancy and ruined it. So I had to have my gallbladder removed. And ever since then, though, so for 21 years, I've had a lot of pain and acid reflux and I've been on medicine ever since. 3 days into the keto diet, I have not had to take any acid reflux medicine, and I have not had to take any now for almost, 5 months. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I was on it for 21 years. So that was like an immediate result that I attribute to the diet, because literally nothing else had changed.
Okay, so it kind of changed.
So that's the first thing, but we can start there.
Yeah, okay. So it changed the way that you lived your life, essentially. You started the keto diet, and you started seeing these physiological changes in yourself.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. All right, sounds reasonable to me. Is there another reason that you consider higher than that? Or is that your best reason?
The other thing is that another change that I immediately saw, and I'm sorry, my cat is like talking to my daughter, if you can hear it. Another one that I saw was that I used to have like inflammation in my knee, and I'd had that for like about 5 years, and the inflammation was completely gone. So now one could say that was from the diet. Another thing you could say is that's from, weight loss. So I can't attribute it directly to changing the diet, but I can say that changing my diet contributed to weight loss, which probably contributed to this lack of inflammation. Mm-hmm. Now, that does have science behind it as far as like weight loss and inflammation, but there's no, direct correlation between doing keto and losing weight.
Yeah. Okay. So awesome. So you have a few reasons then, but you don't consider them science. And you keep bringing that up because to me, it sounds like you do value scientific.
I work in research.
Yeah. You value scientific consensus
that's my job.
Yeah. Scientific consensus as how you consider a belief to be reasonable or a belief to be true.
Well, I think that it's fair to say that if there's a scientific literature behind something, that it bears more weight for being true than if there is no peer review.
Okay.
So I value it more highly. And I think most people who are, logical or rational thinkers
Maybe
tend to think that it's,
yeah.
Right.
So let me ask you this then.
To accept it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If we were to discover some peer review research, and I can't tell you exactly what it says, but maybe over the past 5 years, there's been half a dozen studies that talk about the keto diet. Not a whole lot, but just a few. And all of them point to no correlation between the effects you're describing. Would that actually lower your confidence?
Well, see, that's where I'm struggling, because there are those studies. There are studies that say that it does work, and there are studies that say that it doesn't work. So I'm kind of doing what religious people do, where I'm saying there, but my personal experience is convincing me that it works.
Yeah.
And I want to believe true things, but it's really hard to overcome that personal experience. So it's kind of, even though it's not religious based, I find myself doing the same thing.
Well, I think, first of all, just exercise in general is pretty good for you. So I'd say don't stop doing that, even if you find out that the keto stuff isn't working for you. But that's the thing with health science in general. It's kind of hard because there's lots of different variables and lots of different things to compare. So I think you're doing the right thing in being very considerate about this may not actually be affecting this variable, and these relationships might not be there. I don't know, Drew, what would you say is the next step in this sort of SE process as a breakdown of whether or not the keto diet is, a good thing or not?
Okay. So I think that what I'm wondering here, and this breaks the straight SE dialogue a bit, but I think that with talking with Janet, I think that it still would be productive.
Yes. Yeah. So, you can ask me anything. It's cool.
So, Janet, if we placed and this may seem a little bit confusing when you're coming out from an SE perspective at first, because it's not an SE thing exactly, but almost. If you placed the likelihood that this is true, or based on the evidence that's out there, based on, I'm trying to describe this in a good way. I think that's okay. If you were to put a percentage on exactly how likely this is to be true based on evidence outside of your personal experience, based on objective evidence, then between 0 being there's absolutely no reason to think this objectively, and 100, the evidence is pretty much perfect. There's been tons of, maybe meta-analyses or something like that, all showing this is great. It's perfect, impeccable evidence. You could never disprove it. Where do you think the evidence for the keto diet falls as far as, something outside of your personal experience goes?
I'm going to say, because I did research it, so this is actually based upon my own, and I researched peer review through work, so I actually looked at the science, and I'm going to say it's between 40 and 50%. So it's like square, like half, because you have some that say it's effective, and it literally is, because it's effective for a certain subset of people. So so that kind of skews the data a little bit. But I would say it's about half.
Yeah. Okay. And then
maybe a little bit less than half.
Okay, so a little less than half. And you tend to think that personal experience is not particularly reliable in general. Am I getting that right?
Absolutely. Right.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think that you should just take that, accept that, and then accept that something is true.
Okay.
So yes, I agree that you shouldn't do that under normal circumstances.
So percentage-wise, where is your confidence on the scale?
See, I'm going to go with like 70.
Okay.
Because I am not entirely convinced that it's from just the diet alone, but I kind of am. But then I have a theory about why it may be working. But yeah.
So if the evidence is a little less than half, between 40 and 50% or so, and then your confidence is above that, then I think that you have, if you would agree here, I think that you have given your reasons for saying, this is the reason that the discrepancy is there, right? You said that you have your own theories, you have your own personal experience, and it's convincing whether or not you tend to think it rational or not. But is the discrepancy there between your confidence and the evidence, your confidence up here, evidence down here, is this space a reasonable space to actually allow to move around? Should your confidence be above where you think that the evidence actually is? Is it reasonable to make the leap from 40 to 50 up to 70?
No, and if it was somebody else, I would be like, well, the science doesn't show it, so, personal anecdote aside, it probably isn't attributed to that. I mean, that's what I would tell somebody else. So that's why that's kind of what I'm saying. It's like I hold this belief and I really don't have a good reason for it.
Yeah, so there's something else that's giving you that 70%, that's giving you that space. And I guess.
Well, I think, I'll tell you what my theory is,
okay.
and then maybe we can break it down from that. Like, my theory isn't that it's so much the diet itself, as far as like the high fat, medium protein, and low carbs. It's because when you do the keto diet, you basically eliminate sugar. So I think that the positive things that I've seen, which is weight loss and anti-inflammation, and the acid reflux, is more likely attributed to eliminating things that I wasn't tolerating well. So it is kind of the diet, but by the nature of the diet, I'm seeing results that maybe normal, quote unquote, people would not see.
Yeah, and maybe that's something you could also research as well. Those particular variables and see where that gives you. But I think it's also important to consider that even though you have this discrepancy here, let's say that you do end up being at 50% confident. You could just be justified in having that belief. You don't always have to be 100% confident in one way or the other. And I think it's okay to be in that space of I'm this % confident. I think we trick ourselves into thinking that we have to always know things one way or the other, but that's not the honest answer. The honest answer is we have some evidence here that says yes, we have some evidence here that says no, and that's just the space that we kind of live in. So first off, I want to applaud you for really considering this and doing the research and trying to figure out whether this thing is true or not.
Well, I got to give my daughter credit for that because she made me do it, because she's like, you're not going to start this until you research it. And then she also told me, you're not going to be one of those people who sits down and eats a pound of bacon and no vegetables. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Because people literally do that on keto. Yeah. They literally just have like a pound of bacon. And no, I'm not one of those people. I actually still, have spinach and stuff like that. It's just you're limited in what you can have. So, yeah. But I don't take credit for that. I give my daughter credit for that because she made me do it. But yeah, I can appreciate what you're saying, and it's just I feel like I'm one of those people who like I want to have good reasons for believing it. So I like constantly kick myself because I'm like, is it really because of the diet, or is it because I've made this change in like my lifestyle? And then also you also have to practice a lot of portion control, which clearly is an issue for especially a lot of Americans. Yeah. So I think that also plays into it. So I probably do have a good reason for why it's working. It just may not be specifically that. Yeah. Like the keto itself.
So I would say,
but I'm going to stick with it anyway because it's working.
Yeah. So I would say be confident in the variables are working for you. Yeah. Those changes in habits that you're talking about, whether it's through exercise or portion control like you're talking about, those can be shown across the board to be good things. So take those, if you need to be 100% confident about something, be confident that you're doing those things and that this is different from what you're doing before and that you can see results from that. As far as the food intake, I don't want to be the one to say, yes, keep doing it, and then find out later that it's not great for you because, that would be awful. No. I can't.
We're good on that.
Yeah.
We're good on that because, like I said, I try to make sure I have a balanced, thing of like all the leafy greens and all that. So
yeah, it's all good. You have more research.
I'm not doing the pound of bacon. I promise.
Yeah, that's good. You have more research on the topic than I do. And I trust that ultimately you're going to be the one that's going to be making the decisions anyway. So I'm glad that you are choosing to do that. And I'm glad you're willing to have this conversation with us. This was very fun. And
well, I appreciate it. I wanted to try to do something different too. And I appreciate your guys' time. Love you both. So
yes. Thank you.
Good job on the shows, both of you.
Thank you so much, Janet. We'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
If I can just point out really quick, I just wanted to say that, I think on this show and, with my content and with anything that you do, we're not trying to necessarily promote particular beliefs.
No, not at all.
That's not really it. We're trying to promote more of a method of questioning.
Yeah. I have no idea if the keto diet is good or not. Yeah, I've done zero research. Yeah.
We're not just trying to debate those facts here. And what makes me not so worried, because a lot of the time people do come to me for like diet advice because I talk about alternative medicine stuff sometimes. And I tell them, I'm not a physician and you should go talk to somebody with actual expertise in this. That's where you're going wrong right now, is asking me rather than someone else.
Right.
But the reason I think that I don't worry about Janet so much here as I would someone else that's talking about the keto diet and this is why they think it's, it's good and whatever. Even if their confidence is disproportionate to the evidence in certain ways, Janet seems to have a kind of more reliable method of coming to truth.
Yes.
Even if right now she feels like that she's at odds with that method really applying in, it seems like intellectually she knows that this is so, but she doesn't feel that it's so. But that doesn't mean that she doesn't actually have that method to finding out truth.
Correct.
And so she's not throwing out so many other things because of this one belief.
Right. She's cognizant of the weaknesses, the pros and cons of her belief and how she got to that belief. And she's willing to change her mind based on that same amount of evidence. She's created a standard by which her beliefs can change. And I think that's important because if we don't establish those standards, if we don't determine, what allows for that change, then we'll never know whether what we believe is true or not because we haven't established what makes something true or what we're convinced of that being true. Yeah. So very, very interesting conversation.